How many? the school board to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a need to amend our agenda? Need a motion to add an addendum to item D2, the personnel report.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. I would like to welcome our new superintendent. It's her first board meeting. We'll promise that we'll all behave. Welcome. And also like to extend a warm welcome to our new board clerk, Ms. Denise Spinner. Welcome. Okay, off to business. First is public comments. We have no public comments this evening. Next we move to item B1, special presentations. First is the efforts to improve achievement, Bedford Hills Elementary School and Paul Munro Elementary School. Dr. McLean?
Yes, good evening. Board has been hearing presentations from our schools across the year about their different improvement efforts, and tonight we have Donna Bayer from Paul Munro and Sherry Steele from Bedford Hills, and their focus this evening is talking about efforts with reading and closing the achievement gap.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Edwards, Paul Munro and Bedford Hills. We both appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about our students' achievement in reading and specifically closing the achievement gap. We're very happy to announce that both Paul Munro and Bedford Hills are fully accredited. But when we started looking at our school data, when we started digging just a little bit deeper, we came to the conclusion that school data indicates that not all of our children are achieving at the same rate. There is an achievement disparity with our three gap group categories. That would be students with special needs, economically disadvantaged students, and our African American non-Hispanic students. Our children, they get very, very excited on the first day of school. The first day of school, it is a big deal for all of our children entering through our doors on the very first day. They all come in, they have beautiful backpacks, they're excited. However, sad to say, when our children come in on the very first day, so does the achievement gap. If you look at the tools in our backpacks, we have students that have attended preschool programs for 3 years prior to coming to kindergarten. We also have students that are coming in with 0 nursery school or preschool experiences. We have students that are already 6 years of age. Now, on the other hand, we have students that are 4, turning 5 in late September. We have students that have received early intervention. We have students that have not received any type of intervention. We also have students that are economically disadvantaged. They have not had a wide variety of learning experiences. And we have children that have had lots of experiences before starting school. When we look at the two schools and we talked about what is it that we're doing together, what are both schools doing to address this achievement gap, we need to understand that academics are very, very important, but it's not just about academics. It is a very holistic approach. We need to look at behaviors, we need to look at socializations, We need to look at parents' involvement and families. We need to look at the community. All of these things come together to help us work with our students and close that achievement gap.
So one of the things that we've had a really wonderful opportunity to do this year, I don't know where the text is. One more time. Okay, there we go. We have the opportunity to work with Becky DeFore, who I've known for a long time and did not even realize she lived right here in our local community. But her and her husband Rick are really the kind of king and queen of professional learning communities. And so Becky is volunteering her time to work with Lynchburg City Schools, which is a tremendous opportunity for us. And a professional learning community means that it's all of us. It's all of us working together. It's the entire school. It's the specialists. It's the teachers. It's the instructional assistants. It's everyone in the school working together to say, what can we do to help all of our students achieve? And so part of that is that we get together, most of us 1 or 2 times a week, and we unpack our standards, we look at our standards, we create common assessments. So if we have a common assessment, we can have common conversations. Here's something we want to look at. How are the students doing? We're looking at our data. We're saying, what are some evidence-based strategies that we can put in place to help these students achieve? What if they already knew it before we gave the assessment? What are we going to do for those students to extend their learning, to challenge them, to keep them moving forward? And what are we going to do for those students who they don't have that skill yet? What kind of interventions are we going to put in place to help them achieve? So we're looking at that all very systematically, very data-driven by our interventions and extensions, and the important part of us all coming together to have that conversation. What can you do? What can you do? How can you help? How can parents help? How can everybody help? What do I need from central office? You know, having those conversations about how we can all join in the efforts to try to help our students improve. So our division, under the leadership of Dr. McLean as well, has provided several opportunities throughout the year for us to get together and learn more about how we can be a community of continuous learning, because we need to do that as adults as well. Here's one of our second grade teachers talking about the power as she's a second grade teacher, but she's also a first year teacher, talking about how PLCs are helping her in the classroom.
Well, I feel as though me being a new teacher, I need the professional learning community, just so that I know for sure that I'm doing everything that I can as a new teacher and as a teacher in general to help my kids and help my students progress in the classroom. It's not just that one grade level or that one unit, it's the entire school that's working together. Everyone in the meeting and evening is comfortable enough to say what works, say what doesn't work, give their feedback. And so once we all work together, then the students will reap the benefits of it, and so will we.
I can say that our teachers are using high-yield instructional strategies in the classroom every day. When they teach reading, it's all about data. Our reading instruction is intentional and it's data-driven. Teachers have worked together with their PLCs. They have discussed areas where children are excelling and we can move on, and what we need to do to make sure that we raise the bar for our children. We're looking at children that are on grade level, and we're looking at children that need that little extra instruction. It's all about differentiating instruction to meet all levels of all students. If you were to walk into one of our classrooms, you would see small groups going on. You might see a teacher sitting at a table working with some children, an instructional assistant working with another group of students. You'd see children at computers working busily. You might see children moving around the room from centers and stations. It's all about collaborative conversations and children reading and writing about what they're reading. Something else that you're going to see is independent reading. We build time every day into our schedule to include independent reading. You've got children reading to themselves, they're reading to partners, they might be reading to the teacher, but it's all about read, read, read.
Here at Paul Munro, we ask that the students be reading 30 minutes a day in class. We make sure that they are reading on a level that is appropriate and comfortable for them so that they don't find that reading is so laborious that they never want to do it again. And that seems to work. It's that simple.
Differentiation is so important. Students really need to be reading at their independent reading level because it supports comprehension and it supports accuracy in their reading and makes them more fluent readers.
Children coming from different backgrounds have different experiences. Some know more, some know less. So I start them all on leveled readers. I usually start them back a little ways, and so it builds that confidence. I believe in building that confidence in a child, spurs them on as they see their peers going on, and then they want to do better as well. And I've found that the more time they're given to read, the better that they do.
It becomes a school where a culture of reading is the in thing to do, and I think that makes such a difference.
And like Ruth Ann McCarthy, our school librarian, said, we are working very, very hard in both of our schools to build a culture of readers. Like Dr. Seuss said, the more you read, the more things you'll know. The more things you learn, the more places you'll go.
So in addition to all of our instructional strategies and then working together, I think it's also important to look at the culture of your school and making sure that every child feels a part of your culture. Every child feels important. Every child feels that every person in that building cares for them and wants the best for them and is there to support and help them. So at Bedford Hills, we created, it's the Husky Way every day. It's part of our mission that we are respectful, responsible, and ready to learn, and we say that every morning, and the kids know that. But it's a sense because we're Huskies is our motto, and we started, our mascot, excuse me. So at the beginning of the year, we started with expectations, and we meet with all of the students, and we talk about what are our expectations, both for the students, but also for ourselves as adult learners. And I tell the story about the Iditarod and how it started in Alaska, and they were on a mission, to save the children who were really sick in Nome. So they had to travel from Anchorage to Nome, which was over 1,000 miles. And I showed them the picture, and this was something down at the bottom there that one of the classes made. That's all of them, the little husky dogs and everything. So we talk about how we have to pull together, we have to work together, we have to be moving in the same direction to reach our mission and reach our goals. And if we start fussing and fighting and those dogs are arguing or going different ways, we're not going to get where we need to go. And so we tie that into our behavior, we tie that into our mission and our vision and where we need to be to accomplish what we need to accomplish. So we talk a lot about that, and we want to make sure that, we are one team working together. We have clear expectations, and we recognize that we have to teach our expectations. We cannot just expect them. We can't expect that we all come into our school building every day expecting to behave or conduct ourselves in the same manner. So we teach children and we model as adults for them how to be respectful when other people are disrespectful, how to handle conflicts. We talk about all of that, and we reteach it if we need to. Just like we teach math and reading and everything else, I think we have to teach children how to be appropriate in their behavior and problem solving and their responsibilities. We do think sheets, so if someone is having a difficult time, the first thing we do is stop and we think and we write down, what did I do? Why did I do that? What could I have done differently? And what do I really need some help with? And that's really insightful because a lot of times children will share some really important things on there, like I'm really having a hard time, I'm very angry, or I'm struggling with this. And then we can put supports in place for them. So we scaffold those supports. This year, I was able to purchase Kelso's Choice, which is a conflict management program where we teach the children how to solve conflicts. That's a difficult skill sometimes. What do you do when you're not getting along with someone, and what are some things that we can do? Social skills, we put a social skills curriculum in place, again, to teach children how to get along with each other better and to just build their character, lunch bunches, all of those different things that are really important. Of course, when we're having positive behaviors, that means that we have more instructional time in the classroom, which is really important. We need our children in the classroom learning. And I'm just not very great at this thing here. Okay. There you go. One more, hang with me. Okay, I'll put Donna in charge of that. There you go. I'm going to delegate her to push the buttons while I talk. And the other thing also is, you know, working with the families, working with central office. I've been able to call on support from Ethel Reeves and LaTanya Brown. They've come out to work with our students. Again, it just takes all of us working together to make sure that our students are successful. And here's a morning meeting in our responsive classrooms. This is Mrs. Tasic, who happens to be our Teacher of the Year, talking with some of the students. I'll play that for you.
First,
So it wasn't me. It's the rain, not me.
first of all, good morning.
Well, I can move on, and if it comes on, I'll be quiet. Oh, here it comes, I think, halfway there. It's a circle line. But this is Mrs. Tasic, our Teacher of the Year, and one of the things she does through Responsive Classrooms is a morning meeting. So every morning starts with the children sitting in a circle. They greet each other. In this little clip, they're greeting each other in Japanese. They say good morning to each other. There's a little lesson, might be about all kinds of different things related to social skills or sharing time. But they do that every morning, and then they talk about their goals for the day. And so this was a child sharing how she is being more successful. And why are you successful? Because I'm working hard, because I'm using my strategies, you know, and really getting children to use that language and those words to realize being successful isn't just because, you know, I come from this home or that home. It really takes a lot of hard work, and it takes dedication, and it takes using your strategies. So she was sharing about how she was making some improvements in that area, but I don't think it's going to work because of the rain.
Some of the things we're doing at Paul Munro this year that are brand new, one thing I have learned all about is the Daily 5. And the Daily 5 is something that we practice in our reading classes from 1st grade through 5th grade. And it is read to self, read to a partner, or read to someone else, listen to others reading, word study, and writing. And that has been phenomenal this year. I've learned all about what word study is. I've learned all about how important it is for children to have the correct levels of books. All of our children have leveled book boxes on their desk, so if they have the opportunity to read, they have the materials they need right in front of them. Reading in the content area. Reading is in every content area. And so we are reading in science, and we're reading in social studies. In math, you need to be able to read word problems. So you might see some double dipping going on, and you might see reading strategies taking place in a science or social studies class. We have a stream lab that we're very excited about this year. We are still gathering our materials and getting started. We started first semester, but all of our children, pre-K through 5th grades, they all have the opportunity to go to the stream lab. They're on the floor, they are building things, there's problem solving going on, and of course there's lots of reading. We also have a lunch bunch that meets in 4th grade. They have a book, it's like a book club, and they're reading their books every day and talking about these books. Another thing that I feel very proud of that happens several times a year at Paul Munro is we have the 100% challenge. The first 2 weeks of school, I challenge all the faculty and staff to make sure they contact all of our parents. And I can say we've been very, very successful with that. We had the same 100% challenge on conference day. The beginning of 2nd semester, we go back, we look at that 100% challenge. It's very important to get our parents involved and let them know what we're doing in our classrooms. And it's all about student engagement. Years ago, when I was younger, you walked into a classroom, everyone was sitting in rows, it was very quiet, and the teacher was standing in front of the room and she was talking. That is not what you're going to see anymore. It's all about children being engaged in active learning. You're going to see children that are talking to each other. We're going to see children that are having meaningful conversations, they're problem solving, hands-on activities. You are no longer going to see that quiet classroom, because an active classroom and an engaged classroom is the classroom where learning is taking place. Looking ahead, what are we going to do in our schools to make sure that we close that achievement gap? We're going to make sure that we use our data to plan professional development, to make sure that we're reaching our children with the instruction that they need. We feel like it's our responsibility as a school to partner with parents, with the teachers, with our community, to make sure that we're all together surrounding and supporting our children and making sure that they have what they need to be successful in school. And in the words of great Frederick Douglass, once you learn to read, you will be forever free. Thank you all. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to.
Questions or comments? Dr. Brennan?
So thank you so much for that presentation, for all the work you're doing and not resting on your laurels of having accredited schools, but continuing to move along. I just have two comments and one question. One is that regarding community participation, I was down at a fun run on Saturday morning, and there was the Paul Munro Boys Running Club participating with their T-shirts on and their parents. It was such a great vision and such a great thing for the school to do. And one downside, I'm so sorry to hear that Miss Kate Wall is retiring, the best kindergarten teacher in the world is going to leave us. I'm so sorry to hear that.
She has promised to come back.
Oh, good.
She has promised to sub for us and to work on parent involvement activities.
There you go. Perfect. Good. So that was my one question, which is, as you said at the beginning, you know, parental involvement, and particularly in challenging areas of socioeconomic challenges, distance, where parents are farther away from the school and have to get. How do you feel that, what are those challenges, and how can we help you to meet those challenges?
It is a challenge, and when we have conference nights, we try to send out communication to our parents. If you do not have a way to get to school, if you call us in advance, we will try to find transportation for you. I have had some of my parents say that they feel like where they live and where the school is located, it's very, very difficult to get to the school. We tried to work with Lynchburg bus service to see if we couldn't get a bus to come a little bit closer to our school. So it is a challenge, and some of them do feel like it's the other side of the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Morrison?
Well, I want also to say thank you, and to also recognize that both schools were the ones that were hit without power for longest, and that the teachers all pitched in, all the staff pitched in to deliver meals and to make contact with parents and students to make sure they were okay. And I just want you to know, as a community member, how proud I was of the way you pitched in. And they subbed in other schools to make sure that they were there, and I know that comes from great leadership, so thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Coleman? Dr. Coleman.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to thank both of you. Every time I'm in either of your buildings, the learning engagement is high, and the staff engagement is high. Appreciate that. And Principal Steele, thank you for Bedford Hill's participation with having kids to do artwork for the MLK commemoration. That was most appreciated. It would appear to me that you all said something in the beginning of your presentation about the number of students you deal with that are not necessarily ready for school at the onset. And we learned last night from the Secretary of Education that 1/3 of Virginia students are not prepared for school. I'm wondering, as you celebrate being accredited, stay accredited, get better, seek to close the gap, what ways are you specifically looking to partner with the community to help narrow that dynamic? And you talked about data driving your future efforts. We certainly would be delighted to get any of that data as often as you can present it to us, so that we can know how we can be helpful on our side to assist with the actual achievement gap narrowing and helping other schools to do the same.
Thank you. We do try to have an open door policy, so we love having community members in our school. We have friends that come in and read to our children, extra tutorial. Always nice to have an extra set of hands in the cafeteria or on the playground or after school working with children in programs. So we welcome all community members to please get in touch with us. We'd love to have you. You're always welcome in our buildings.
Who would they contact in particular?
I beg your pardon, sir?
Who would they contact in particular?
Please contact me. Or
Me.
All right.
And I think it's being really intentional about what it is that the child is behind on, or what the gap is about. You know, we can't just say reading. We have to really drill into that and say what part of it are they not getting? Do they need more background knowledge? Do they need, you know, phonetic skills? What part of it? Is it the comprehension? Is it the inferencing? You know, really taking a look at not just keep on doing the same thing, but creating something that maybe looks a little bit different, where it's really, really intense and intentional to close that gap. Because if we let that gap keep going and going, children become very discouraged learners. And so the quicker we can close that gap and get them on track where they need to be, then the better off we are. And I always say I feel very responsible from day one of kindergarten for the graduation rate at EC Glass. You know, this is all of us working together. So every day, every minute, we should have an urgency about what we're doing and how we're going to close that gap, so that the children aren't always struggling and always trying to catch up. Because after a while, that gets discouraging, and sometimes that turns into behavioral issues, not coming to school attendance issues. You know, it gets kind of complicated. So we want to do as much as we can, as early as we can, to close that gap.
And if we can get all children into a preschool program, that would be very beneficial. We have 4 pre-Ks in our building, and I'll have to say that is the happiest part of our building. If you're ever having a bad day, step into the pre-K class, because it is a wonderful place to visit. And if all of our children could have that pre-K experience, I know it would make a big difference with closing the achievement gap.
Questions, comments? Okay. All right, very good. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
That brings us to agenda item B2, the VSBA art contest winners. Dr. Edwards.
Yes, and I had the opportunity to be there last night when we unveiled the winners, but I'm going to ask Al Coleman to come up and share the good news with all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards, Dr. Nillis, board members. It's a pleasure and a privilege to share a sample of the outstanding artwork that our students are making each and every day in our classrooms. It's also time to recognize and applaud our art teachers that we have in our schools. At the elementary level, we have 6 full-time art teachers and 3 part-time art teachers who are giving lessons to 4,000 students every week. At the secondary level, we have 6.5, I won't get into the math, but 6.5 art teachers who are providing our middle school and high school students with opportunities to pursue their interests in that area as well. One of the SOLs for our art students is to give them an opportunity to display their artwork. You saw some of that, those of you that were able to attend the meeting yesterday. I'll mention that there's a senior art show at EC Glass coming up. This will be in the elevator, and it'll be other places where you can get the dates. An opportunity for students to display their work. You'll see student artwork on display Thursday evening at the reception. So we always try to provide students with opportunities to display their artwork, and perhaps the most important place that artwork is displayed is on the refrigerators of every home in Lynchburg. So we thank our teachers for giving our students those opportunities, and we thank our students for sharing their great talents with us. Tonight we're going to recognize the 3 students who were selected, as well as their pieces of art, who were selected to represent Lynchburg at the Regional Virginia School Board Association meeting yesterday. And I'm going to ask the students and their teachers to come forward. We're delighted to have the teachers here as well, and we're delighted to have administrators here and family members here supporting our students. And our first student that we're going to bring forward is Jonas Leeson. Jonas is a 5th grade student at T.C. Miller Elementary School. His teacher is Sean Lipscomb. His principal is Dr. Huskin. He's got his family back here with us. And Jonas, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about your piece of work?
is one of my latest pieces of artwork that I recently did it in my school, thanks to my teacher, Anne. I'm so glad to have her. But this here is, well, it was originally a 3D piece of artwork, but we had to cut it and make it into a 2D, I don't really know the name for it, but a regular piece of paper. And, well, I guess I can say that this was really interesting. I had a lot of fun things in my head, and I think I put it off pretty nicely. And, thank you. It took me about 2 weeks to make it and then to color it. But at first, I didn't know that this was going to be in a competition. I just did it for actually making it. And I was so glad that my principal and my teachers took it and put it for one of our school's best thing for the competition. And it was just amazed me that I won out of the district's elementary schools. I am still blown away. And it even surprised me more that I came in second place.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a picture in a minute, but we'll wait. So if y'all could wait over here, that would be great. Our middle school representative was Jakaya Daniels, and she's a student at Sandusky Middle School, and her family's with her, and I'm going to ask Ms. Camden to come forward with her so that you can learn a little bit about her piece of work as well.
This is Jakaya's portrait, and the title is, Chilled Darkness, which I thought was a perfect title for it. And she amazes me every day. I received a donation of some charcoal. First time she'd ever opened the box, touched charcoal, and she just sat down and she drew this. She loves to use her Chromebook for inspiration to find photos and things to draw from, and she gets better every day. So.
Thank you. And thanks to Mr. Mason, the principal, for being here to support the family as well. Our high school representative is Michael. Say the magic word and the phone rings. Nachuporic. Did I do it right? Did I? Oh, close. All right, I'll take close in today. Michael is a senior at EC Glass. He plans to go to Old Dominion next year and continue his studies. And Michael, why don't you come forward and share your work with us, please?
Thank you.
This is Linda Hardy, Michael's teacher.
Right, so the initial prompt for this piece was a landscape, and I wanted to do something unique. So not what you would typically picture when you think of a landscape. This is based off of a photo of Norilsk. It's an industrial city in Siberia, which produces a large percentage of the world's nickel and copper. And my inspiration for it kind of is, I guess, sort of just the fact that this city can exist in the Arctic, in the permafrost zone, and that it has so many people who actually are willing to work there despite the horrible weather conditions and, of course, the pollution, which is caused by the amount of production that goes on there. And it was pretty difficult, actually, for me to get the snow shading right to make it look like it was, you know, three-dimensional. But I'm pretty proud of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a final word to thank you, school board, for your support of our students and their work in the field of art. Without you, you go above and beyond to provide opportunities, and you can see the results. So thank you, school board. And photo op? Okay, sure. Okay. So you guys, if you want to get in the middle of the horseshoe, is that the way you want to do it there? Yeah. Okay. They can take them home. Okay. Yes. So you're the teacher. No, he's got to put them. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to see a selection, a very limited selection of all the talent that the school division has on display. So congratulations from the board and good luck. Appreciate what you're doing, and quite a group of students. So we move now to item B3, which is appointment of the clerk and deputy clerk for 2017-18. This is for action tonight. In accordance with section 22.1-76 of the Code of Virginia, it is necessary that the board, well, we're not reorganizing, but we are appointing a new clerk of the school board, R. Denise Spinner, and reappointing or reaffirming deputy clerk of the school board, Barbara Saunders. So I'm recommending that the board appoint Ms. Spinner as the clerk of the school board and Ms. Saunders as deputy clerk of the school board for the rest of 2017-18 school year. Second. Is there any discussion, comments, questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. It's official. Now you can't leave. All right, so that brings us to item C, the finance report. Mr. Beckles.
Good evening. You have before you the financial statements for the month ending February 28th. We are so far 8 months into our fiscal year. As far as the revenue is concerned, all of our state revenues, including the sales tax, are on target in accordance with our budget, so there's no issues as far as our revenue is concerned. On our expenses, there are a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. You'll notice there are some available balances that are negative, so I'll touch on those. And the first one I want to bring to your attention is if you look under the administration, attendance, and health, you'll see a negative $117,000 in the available balance. That's due to the reclassification of the attendance clerks. They were previously budgeted up in the instruction, but we reclassified the expense down in the attendance and health service. So we just have to move the budget below. So that 113 of that will go away. The other 5,000 is due to the difference between the RNs, nurses that we have. Our budget is based on, well, you know, we're transitioning from health assistants to RNs, and we're now getting more RNs. So there's a slight difference of 5,000, so I'm not too concerned about that 5,000. But when you see our next statement in March, you will see the budget for the attendance clerks move from the instruction down to the attendance line will negate that negative number of 113,000. If you look in transportation, this is one of those accounts I told you was going to continue to increase, and I'll deal with it at the end of the year. At this point, if you take the 17,000 on the personnel under the management section, That's due to the overtime for dispatchers. We have 3 of those. For next year's budget, well, I'll adjust the budget for that because they're still running a little bit over. So I'll adjust for that in next year's budget, so we'll provide a little bit more for overtime there. Based on the staffing there, that is going to continue a little bit until we can rectify some of that. If you look on the monitoring services, the $60,000, that's bus aids. Now, a couple things that have happened this year. One is they've added some specialty programs. We have a lot more students with special education students with IEPs, which in some instances require an aide to be on the bus. In some instances, we have 2 aides on the bus. We also have some schools that have specialty programs where we need to transport special ed students. Well, every time we do one of those, it's sometimes 1 or 2 aides. As you will remember, we are short of aides. Right now, we have 33 bus routes that require bus aides. We only have 21 bus assistants. So there's no way we can meet the 33 requirements without currently running overtime. I projected that overtime for the end of the year to be about $90,000. If you remember on our budget request, we had a request for 6 additional bus aides. This is part of the reason why we're requesting those additional bus aides. If we get those bus aides, assuming that we don't get any significant increase in special ed IEP requirements of transportation, I would expect that to go down. But as you know, one of those, the special ed IEPs, there's no way you can predict what that's going to be. So that's the reason for those. If we do 2 of those numbers together, at this current state gives us $78,000. I'm projecting that to be $90,000 for the bus aides, and I'm projecting the dispatchers to be about $25,000. So there are the major variances that you see on your statements. If you look at technology, you'll see another $12,000 there. That's due to the schools we allocate for them are technology funds, but a lot of the technology that I bought for instruction can be classified, we can use textbook funds for those. So we're going to reclass the software funds to textbooks, and those negatives will go away. Outside of that, there's no significant issues here. As I was saying, we're coming down to the end of the year. We get 2 more board meetings. We're now in April. Basically, May is next month. So next board meeting, I'll present to you the request for budget reallocations. Our health insurance is still bouncing around. As you know, we don't have a health reserve that I can go and get $1.3 million from. So yes, I'm being a little bit conservative. I'm trying to push it as long as I can to get what that exact number is. So right now I have a list for reallocations for 1.8. That's basically all the fluff all of the excess from budget that we have. Now in that 1.8, I'm making a provision of 1.4 for the health reserve. For the health expenses. Now, why am I using the higher number? When I look at the whole 9 months, sometimes it went that high, sometimes the average is 937,000. Which number do we pick? I have no clue. But to be conservative, I'm going to take the highest number, hoping that it does not end up to be that. And then we could reallocate those funds for other needs that we currently have. So you will see that for our next board meeting. And since we only have 2 board meetings left, May and June, I would request that if you can improve those reallocations for May, that gives me at least the rest of May and June to spend those funds in the event the funds are available. Right now, based on my calculation, our fund balance is less than it was last year. And if you know, I was a little concerned how low it was last year, so I'm not looking to get a haircut, but it's a bit low. So I'm watching every expenditure to make sure we stay right around where I'm projecting it to be. As far as the storm damage is concerned, we did not have a significant amount of damage so far. At this point, we only have $25,000 worth of storm damage. And it looks as though we'll be able to claim that against, along with the city's claim against FEMA. So, but there's no insurance claim that we have to do against our insurances for storm damage. So we're pretty good escape on this last storm. Outside of those notes, if anyone have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any that you may have.
Could you one more time help me with the amount of 1.2, 1.4 million for the health insurance? Where is that money? We don't have a reserve fund at this point. So where are those? Where do those funds come from?
At this point, the only available funds we have is the difference between the budget and actuals for salaries. So what we call salary lapses. Yeah. That's where that's going to come from. And that's why I'm watching it, because I don't have any place else to go other than there. So we're trying to make sure everybody stays within their salary budgeted amount. Will be okay. Now I say that we only get 2 more months. I mean, a lot of people have to get significantly sick for that to kind of balloon. So I'm hoping we get by with around 900, 950 will be fine. Because above that, that's why I'm providing for the worst to happen for the next month of 1.4.
Thank you.
Ms. Snyder?
Mr. Beckles, you might not be able to answer this, but might be more of an operations thing or a special ed thing, but we have 33 bus routes that need aids, and we only have 21 that are filled right now.
That's correct.
What percentage of those needs are IEP driven?
In fact, all of these 39 are IEP.
They're all so all the needs for the bus aids.
All of the routes that we use in these, they have 39 routes that require bus aids. We have 21.
Okay.
So because you're short, we've got to bring people in to cover them.
Right.
And that's what's creating the additional funding.
Okay.
Ms. Morrison?
Thank you for this information for this year, but I'm curious about next year, and when are we going to start talking about that in terms of budget?
That will be as soon as we know for sure what city council is going to decide, and as you know, the state budget still isn't settled.
Right.
So until those two are settled, we kind of don't know what we have. I mean, we project right now what we have. At this point, we're still assuming that the 2 million additional funds we're getting from the state is going to remain, and we're hoping that city council gives us level funding. Until those two bodies, I guess, finalize what the budget is, we can go forward, but it's kind of like you're walking on thin ice. You really don't know what you have. So it's hard to make a definitive decision on the budget when your sources of funds aren't definitive yet. So as soon as that's definitive, then we can go ahead and begin to settle on exactly what our budget is going to be.
Ms. Carter?
You stated that it looks like we're going to use an additional 90,000, or did you say 9,000 for the
overtime for the
Yes.
bus? I'm projecting 90.
Okay.
The total for the year, not 1 month. The total.
Okay. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, the
But
total
not
for the
just
year.
okay,
No,
great.
no, not for the
I was
2
gonna
months.
say, okay. The other one, you said that you wanted us to be able to reallocate, but do you have a list of what we're doing? Is that?
I will give you that list. Yes, actually. You'll get an itemized list of every category.
I was going to say, we'll just try to make sure we get it out to the board, you know, a few days beforehand, at least a few days, so you have a chance to take a look at it. And, okay. Mr. Polly?
Mr. Beckles, I remember when you were telling us about wanting to build up the reserve for the health fund. Just curious, our other reserves. I know there are other places that you would like to have reserves. Just in an ideal world, I know this isn't a perfect scenario, but what are some of those areas other places where you would like to have reserves specifically?
We don't have a reserve like for special ed. We don't have a reserve for special ed. So anything happens in special ed, that comes right out of the operation. We don't have what I call a significant maintenance reserve. We have one for 200,000, but right now we're dealing with the chiller at Paul Munro. Hopefully nothing else breaks down. Now, let me back up saying that. My numbers are based on nothing else breaking up. So if anything was to, you know, we blow a chiller or a cooler or one of those, or blow a boiler, it's a different ball game. So I'm assuming everything goes as normal. So that's, like I said, these numbers are based on what we know today.
Okay.
But yes, we don't, in the last couple of years, we did not have a teacher's reserve. You know, this year we had to hire additional teachers. We don't have a reserve for that. So there's sometimes it's wise to have reserves, so when things like that happen, it doesn't throw your budget out of whack.
Right.
Because when it happens, other departments suffer.
Thank you.
Dr. Coleman?
Mr. Beckles, of course, I know you were using a symbolic jargon when you said you don't have a clue. I understand what you're saying as it related to the health insurance reserve and the amount. What I'm asking is probably too deep for me even to wrap around what I'm really asking. But is there any relationship between the efforts that we're making to get teachers and staff to practice health habits, looking at that, looking at other factors in which we can make determinations, or is all of that so unrelated that we never would be able to
It's not unrelated. I'll break it up in two pieces. We had a lot of cancer. Cancer is one of those things, unless you're smoking, you really don't know you're going to get it. But when we talk about wellness and taking care of what are called regular healthy practices, for example, if you have high blood pressure, make sure you take your high blood pressure medication. Make sure your diet is appropriate. If you're doing those things, it is less likely that you're going to have a catastrophic illness as a result of your high blood pressure, or any one of the other ailments if you're taking the necessary precautions early. What we call preventative maintenance, so to speak, precautions in what you eat, what you drink, what you smoke, those kind of things. So if you do those things, it's less likely you're going to have a major event. Now, it's not saying you're not going to have it, but it's less likely because you're doing all of the right things. So the cancer piece, there's not much that we can do about that. But the wellness is where the focus is. Make sure you maintain your proper weight. Make sure you have a proper exercise. So if you do those things, it's less likely you may have a heart attack, high blood pressure, or an aneurysm because your blood pressure went up so high that you black out and you fall, you get injured. So it's a combination of those things.
So your office wouldn't handle that, but is there someone who's monitoring and connecting the dots as we prepare for the future?
We're trying to encourage wellness as much as we can. Exercise, diet, and those type things. That's more what I call on the wellness side, to try and...
And I'm finished with that. I'm just asking because it has only been into my 50s that I've had an appreciation for what you just said, and it's working for me. I'm just wondering if, in fact, others were being challenged in some monitored way, which is unrelated to what you're talking about, but it just struck me when you said no clue. I understand what you're saying, but I think we ought to, as a school division. Again, I'm very interested as we hear reports, as we're doing what we're doing, is there any follow through and connection with one piece to the next piece where we can see measurable improvements around our efforts?
It's kind of hard to measure to a certain extent. We could only encourage the wellness. And the piece when I'm saying I don't have a clue where the health expense is going to be, I can't tell how many people are going to get sick and what that's going to cost me. That's the perspective of the unknown. The best I could do is look at what 9 months have been and what has been the average monthly expense. It's been around $937,000 a month. If everything stays normal, we can't expect that to continue. If it goes abnormal, which I have no idea that it wouldn't or it would, and that's what I mean, I don't know which number to use from that perspective.
I also have monitored over the last couple of years the number of absences by teachers and the costs of substitute teachers. And I read a recent article that the significant amount of stress that teachers feel or school employees feel contributes to the larger number of absences. So perhaps if we look at identifying what the stressors are, what we have in place that's causing that stress. We can eliminate that, eliminate some of it, and that would help with both teacher attendance and the expense that we're spending on substitute teachers.
I would tell you, based on our health information, stress is one of the top 5
yes.
Cost of treatment for our staff. Mm-hmm. Top 5 is stress related.
Mr. Pollard?
I remember last year you mentioned that there were, I guess there was an increase on the amount of like the accidents, like the slip fall incidents that we have at different schools, and we kind of didn't have anyone directly over that to kind of implement enforcing safety. Have we done any better this year, or are you noticing any trend? Are we getting better in that area?
This part last week I met with the workers' comp claim adjuster. Mm-hmm. We're pretty good this year compared to last year.
Okay.
Still high number of slips and falls, but the cost of the slips and falls hasn't been as high as it's been in previous years.
Okay.
So that is pretty good at this point.
Okay.
I just don't recall the number, but it was not significantly higher than last year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move now to item D, the consent agenda. Consists of the school board meeting minutes from our March 6th regular meeting, the March 22nd closed meeting, March 27th student discipline committee meeting, the personnel report and addendum, as well as policy JHCD, administering medicines to students, and the regulation administration of medication. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. Morrison?
I thought that we had recommended at the last meeting that the number 3 be moved to unfinished business, because I had some questions about it.
Okay, we'll move it.
Not about the opioid, but the rest of it.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, I'm just making sure, in fact, we have all received the minutes listed?
Probably not.
Right.
I think that got missed in the transition.
Right.
So.
And I understand the transition, but I just don't recall receiving minutes.
Okay. So we'll get those, move that to the next meeting.
Yes.
And then, so is there a motion to approve the personnel report and addendum?
I move that we approve the personnel report and make the addendums.
Okay. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. So now that brings us to student representative comments. I'll start with EC Glass, Ms. Barauskas.
Awesome. Okay, so good evening, school board and all who are in attendance. It's been a crazy month of April for all of us and the ending of March, so we're really excited to see what the rest of April and early May has in store for us. So this past weekend on Saturday, we had our annual prom. It was at the Academy of Fine Arts from 8 to 11, and junior and senior Hilltoppers got to bring dates along with them, and everyone was dancing the night away. The theme for the dance was A Night in Hollywood, and there was a after prom that we'd like to call it fundraised by EC Glass, and it was a casino night. Held at Amazement Square within the museum and the new Educational Warehouse Center. So that was really an awesome experience. And so we have a few pictures to show too. These were everyone at the dance. So we're probably about 300 students, 200 students there, and it was great to see everyone having a great time. And then the administration also came and dressed up as well, and everyone had a great time, and me and a few of my friends just always enjoyed it. And with the recent tornado that came through Lynchburg, there was an abundance of students out around the Boonesboro area and Amherst as well, trying to help out as much as they could with tornado damage. I know the EC Glass football team and some Heritage football players as well went out around Peakland Place and showed their support and helped clean up with damage. And A fellow friend of mine, Reese Sheetinger, and her family put up signs to help drivers and citizens of Lynchburg know that there's some bad damage down around the area. So that was great to see. The varsity baseball team recently had a victory against Heritage, our crosstown rival. They defeated Heritage 11-1 on Friday, and Grayson Combs pitched the end of the game for the Hilltoppers the last 5 innings and allowed 2 hits and 1 run while striking out 6 and walking 1. It was a great game for the Hilltoppers, and it's been great to see them succeed. And for Mercy Care, the Mercy Care African Evening is rescheduled for May 3rd. Our advisor for Mercy Care, Ms. Patricia Worsham, has recently had some medical injuries, so we decided to push it back and put it in May. With the funds raised with this event, it's helped support the school in Kenya that we reach out to, and it also helps support the local Boys and Girls Club. And there will be a silent auction, a trash and treasure table, books, desserts, and entertainment. And it'll be in the auditorium lobby as well. The Matchmaker is a play that EC Glass is hosting this week. It starts tonight, the 24th, and it ends the 28th at 7 p.m. in the Alumni Studio Theater. It's been a great production, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the last of the year, so it would be great for everyone to come out. And the ECG Career Fair is a huge thing that's going on throughout Glass at the moment. I believe it's mostly seniors that are attracted towards this event for what they'll do after school if they want to pursue a career instead of going to college, and just summer jobs to raise money for school. And students who participate are required to attend 1 prep session to learn about expectations for a career fair and to create or proofread a resume. So we have a little video as well that came along with that, and hopefully it works. But some of the EC Glass seniors and I think a couple juniors got together and made a presentation on how to balance and what working life is like in school.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Mason, and I work at Mr. Goody's in Bloomsboro.
I'm Samira Carter, and I've been working at Chipotle for 8 months on Lakeside.
Hello, my name is Demontre Dabney. I'm a senior at AC Glass High School. I work at Bojangles. I've been working there for at least 10 months.
Hi, my name is Nathan Wilkerson. I work for Taco Bell and Burger King. So that's 2 jobs and school, which is a full-time job itself.
I love working at Chipotle because we have so many benefits. First of all, we start off at $10 an hour. You cannot beat that, especially when you're in high school. It's hard to find a job that's $10 an hour.
It's a lot of fun. You'll make your money, you'll meet new people, you'll have a new family, and learn your balance.
You have better time management skills, so you will have to manage your time, like to go to school, then do your homework, and then work, or you know, however you would like to do it.
Working a job, period, let alone 2, you have to learn how to manage your time. It helps you with managing money and a lot of times budgeting.
Chipotle taught me how to be a young adult. I don't have to ask my parents for anything or my sisters. I handle my stuff on my own.
I learned how to be a leader, be very vocal, and also I learned how to be responsible for myself and my own actions.
If you guys thinking about getting a job, you need to come here at EC Glass May 2nd and May 3rd to the Job Fest and fill out some applications. It will be open interviews and on-site interviews there. So if you want that job, you need to come get that job because they are looking for you.
And that was actually our prom queen, Samira Carter. She works at Chipotle, and she's a great student in our school.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We're done? Very good. Thank you.
Oh, there's a little more.
A little more?
Yep.
Wasn't sure.
Yep. Just Ms. Robert. Oh, Varsity lacrosse has had a great season as well. They recently had a defeat over Western Albemarle, which was a huge success for them. And they're keeping their season very clean with a 9-0 record. And they will be playing another crosstown rival, VES, tomorrow at VES. So that'll be great to see. Joshua Carr, he's a senior and upcoming graduate from EC Glass, and he was awarded the Exchange Club of Lynchburg's ACE, which is an Accepting the Challenge of Excellence award. So we were really proud of him for that achievement and his recognition in that as well. And along with the tornado incident, we had Officer Fink, who's a Lynchburg Police Department officer, who likes to come in and help out at EC Glass. He's a great person to see in the school. And he suffered a great amount of damage to his home in Amherst County throughout the week. So our SRO officer, Officer Ramirez, she's in the blue, and a couple others went to help him out and just contribute support towards him as well. And last but not least, the personal finance team was recently competing in the Governor's Challenge in Richmond. On April 20th, they did that. And from left to right, it was Joe Seville, Owen Aarons, Matthew McCallum, and Charlie McVeigh who represented our school in the competition. And I have yet to hear the results of that. But it's great that they're recognizing our school like that. And that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, can you update us on what's going on at Heritage?
First of all, we would like to welcome Dr. Edwards. Yeah. But no, yeah, on behalf of Heritage, we welcome you. And there's a lot of students that really look up to you as a role model, and we're very excited to be under your leadership and move forward. For extracurricular activities, last month, the Heritage High School Theater, they traveled to Mobile, Alabama for the Southeastern Theater Conference to perform Second Samuel. And they represented the state of Virginia, and they actually won awards as well. Gwyneth Terry and Keelan Burns received All-Star Cast Awards, and Harris Erickson, which is on the corner, he was named Best Actor out of that whole region, so that's really commendable. For sports, we would like to congratulate CJ Rosser on being selected as the All-Area Boys Basketball Player of the Year. He was mentioned in the News and Advance article, and he really deserves it. For student achievement, on March 16th, Micaiah McMillan, she won the Lynchburg Optimist Club's oratorical speech contest, and she competed alongside students from LCA, Holy Cross, VES, and New Covenant. And she will be competing in the Capital District competition in Dulles in May. Two seniors, Javon Reed and Katiko Burns, they were awarded the Rotary Youth Ethics Award by the Lynchburg Rotary Club, and they're awarded based on their morals, their academic achievement, and their community engagement. Last month, the Lynchburg Beacon of Hope partnered with the Guidance Department to provide HHS juniors a college night. And this is a good opportunity for students and their teachers to learn more about the resources, the information about college, the college application process. And there was also a drawing for 2 $500 scholarships. And juniors Gabriella Canolan and Quashad Petty, they both won that. For National History Day at the district level, National History Day is an opportunity for students to learn more about how to research and how to organize primary sources and secondary sources. And this year's theme was conflict and compromise. So they had to research a topic in history that fit that theme, and they could either make a website, an exhibit. They could actually perform, like a theater performance, and they could do they could make a website as well. And group exhibit, first place was Caitlin Seekings and Bethany Waller. Second place was Sana Mustafa and Tayaba Tahir. Third place was Grace Steger and Haley Rogers. Individual website, first place was Rick Smallshaw. Second place was Sarah Copeland. Third place was Natalie Torres. And for group website, second place was Adam Palmer and Ian Garland. Third place was Alicia Mays and Victoria Everhart. And for research paper, first place went to Samuel Ford. So yeah, we swiped away all the awards that day. So it's really impressive. These are some pictures from that competition. Yeah, my favorite one is on the right. Yeah, that one. And for National Honor Society, on April 11th, 30 juniors were inducted based on their scholarship, their leadership, their service, and their character. And those are the students. And it also served as opportunity to celebrate accomplishments of the senior chapter. We lost 3 students this year, and we focused a lot on spreading positivity and creating a more accepting environment at Heritage High School. And I know that these juniors, as we pass on the torch to them, they will do just as well. To celebrate culture, John Rourke, the HHS art teacher, he initiated a project with the students to highlight African American leaders in Lynchburg through art. And he was actually inspired by this through the white nationalist rally we've seen last summer. He was inspired to do this and to help his students gain more awareness of the different leaders in Lynchburg. And on the left is Dr. Clarissa Wembush, and she was actually the first black dentist in Virginia, and that was made by Shanice Jackson. In the middle was Reverend Thomas Tweedy, which was by Sarah Copeland. Thomas Tweedy was actually the first African American who created the first training program in Campbell County, and he was also a former slave and became an educator. And Carl B. Hutcherson was drawn by Jalen Thomas. Carl B. was actually one of the first black school board members, and I know you guys have like a whole school for him, I think, right? Like an early program or something. But yeah, it's really impressive that they got to act through art from a tragic event. For culture, the Overcoming Adversity with Diversity Club, on the early dismissal day in March 15th, then in the 9 weeks, we partnered with the HHS Cultural Committee, and we organized a series of events that day. In the morning in the library, we hosted Cookies and Cocoa, where students can come in, build new friendships, create new friends, and we actually, before they could actually leave the Diversity Club, we made them say hello and goodbye in 5 different languages before they left. So they learned a little bit that day as well. Throughout the school day, they watched Hidden Figures, which is about African American female NASA workers who were underrepresented. And during lunch, we provided them with white shirts to sign, and that helped. And it was called Mix It Up Day. So they couldn't sit with their friends. They had to meet new people, and they were forced to sign shirts. But they actually made new friends that day, and it built inclusivity within Heritage. And after school day ended, we stayed for the luncheon for the teachers. We made them play a game called Two Truths and a Lie, which was about different countries. Members from our club, they're very diverse. They're from China, Ghana, and several other places. And they would say 3 statements. 2 of them was a truth. The last one was a stereotype or a lie. And the teachers right over there, they had to guess which one. And I mean, they say they did well, but it wasn't that great. But 2 of them won a T-shirt, and we made a T-shirt for them for our club. And yeah, it helped a lot with cultural awareness. And the flags are back from Overcoming Adversity with Diversity Club. We actually, with the help of Mr. Copeland and Mr. Beatty, we got the flags back from the old building, which was in the cafeteria. And last Friday, we actually hung them up on across Main Street. And there's 35 flags. We ordered some more. To represent other students in our school. And I just think that students, they were saying that Heritage feels like a home again, not just an institution. This type of tolerance, we want to reflect that in our country and in our world, like we did at Heritage. And together, the better. So many. I just want to thank so many students from Heritage and EC Glass, and other students from other schools as well as firefighters, police officers, everyone who, public workers, everyone who helped contribute to this cause. And I actually want to highlight something from this. I mean, I appreciate the unity in this community for all of that, but I also wanted to highlight how much the teachers have helped. They organized meals for first responders and for the victims, and they also some of them actually helped with cutting down trees and with all of that. And just from a student perspective, teachers, they're not just there. They're just not there to teach, but they're also there to prepare leaders and innovators and thinkers for our future generation. And I know there's a lot of, in this society, there's a lot of controversy about what's happening with teachers and the protests. Just from a student perspective, I just want to share that I think it's a little unfair that they don't get as much respect or money that they deserve. And a lot of other students feel this way too. And I know it's not just a school board problem, but also a city council problem. But I just want to share that student perspective with you all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Dr. Coleman?
Let's keep it brief. I'm thankful for both of the student reps. I'm wondering, Dr. Edwards and Chairman Nilles, I'm beginning to wonder, since I've been in Lynchburg, you always hear about everybody knows everybody. Well, everybody doesn't know everybody. But one thing I can clearly see is that our student reps are finding ways to genuinely build community. And it seems like to me that I don't know what is in their job descriptions beyond reporting to us at board meetings, but some of the practices that they are doing here could really help the community solve some of the problems that we have towards education. And in fact, they might be the best group equipped to deal with a community that doesn't know how to talk to each other when they don't know each other. I'm just sitting here, I'm just blown away by the quality of what's happening over there.
Ms. Carter?
Just recently went to a conference and they talked about Unity Works and how they had a diverse group of students in Yakima School District and how they did different types of education to break down some of these stereotypes and myths about the different cultures by making people aware of others' culture. And I think what you all have created, and I know you're one of the co-founders, the Overcoming Adversity with the Diversity Club is awesome. And that is something that we need to take to the conference and show what our students are doing, because that's a powerful message. And your presentation at the breakfast was spot on. I'm looking for you to be a something. I'll look for your name. I'll look for your name. Yes, because you're awesome. Great.
Ms. Snyder?
Mr. Shaw, I'm glad you mentioned the flags because I had seen that on Facebook yesterday come up and I was giving it hearts all over the place. I was so excited. I remember being in Heritage before I even had students in the school and to see a play or something, and just remembering all the flags in the cafeteria. So that's, I'm sure it made everybody so happy to see that, and just a representation from where they may be coming from to where they are now. And have you thought anything about trying to expand your organization to even to the middle schools? Because I think the lower you can go, the sooner you can start that feeling of unity, the better off we would be.
Yeah, we actually discussed with, that's actually our next project. We're developing a coursework and a website to provide to elementary schools and middle schools, because that's where it starts. I mean, our youth is our root, and I do believe that, like you said, we could break those stereotypes before they even start. And yeah, that's our next project, and yeah, I want to work with you guys and supplying that to elementary schools and middle schools in Lynchburg City.
And I know lots of us here know students or have students in the elementary schools, so you can reach out to any of us or the PTOs. Any way we can help you get into the schools, just let us know. It's a fantastic project.
Dr. Brown?
I don't want Manon to overshadow Dr. Edwards' first session here, but he really has done a great job since the time. And I do want to point out that since we met last time, there was this really nice article in the paper that talked about his club and what he and his friends have done. And I just want to second what's been said. He's been a great attribute to the board and to the school system. So thanks for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we now go to agenda item F, school board committee reports. Don't know if there have been any. Most of these are quarterly meetings. It's vary, so. Dr. Coleman?
Mr. Chair, if either Denise or someone could supply the board with a list of all of the school board committees and their various forms, it would just be helpful so that we can know what those committees are.
All right. Okay. I think we can manage that. Give her something to do, right? Finally, right? Sitting around. I don't know what.
We're just talking about scripts.
Yeah, well, we're going to start adding to it. So, okay, so we move to agenda item G, unfinished business. We'll start with G1, which is a special education annual plan, Part B, for 2018-19. Dr. McLean, Mr. Vanderwerker.
So Mr. Vanderwerker shared this item at the last meeting. It is back to the board this evening with a request for action. Mr. Vanderwerker is available for any questions.
Right. Dr. Nellis, board members, Dr. Edwards, as you know, we follow the regulations, and the special education annual plan has been out for public comment, and I believe it's page, is it 50, that I summarized one of the public comments that was received, and I would like to draw your attention to the comments about your staff from the parent of a child with a disability who attends a private school, when they make reference to your teachers and therapists as extremely knowledgeable. I think it speaks well of your staff members. So I'm here tonight to ask you to approve the plan and so that I can submit it to the Department of Ed by the May due date.
Okay. Are board member questions or comments? Okay, is there, this is for action tonight. Is there a motion to approve? It's been moved and seconded to approve the special education annual plan, Part B, Section 611 flow-through application and Section 619 preschool grant applications for 2018-19. Now, so now we're official. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right.
Thank you.
Now we move to the previously was a consent item is now item G2, policy JHCD, administering medicines to students and regulation, the associated regulation, administration of medication, Naloxone, whatever. Dr. Copeland. So this is actually the first opportunity I've had to acknowledge your new status. Dr. We have had a number of firsts here tonight, and
yeah,
this is Dr. Copeland recently
Well, thank you,
finished
Dr. Nellis.
his
Based off of
doctorate in education.
Based off of the feedback received at whenever we met last, I don't know when it was, about these policies, we've made the edits that I think the board wanted to capture. So I'll try to answer any other questions you might have about the policies.
Ms. Morrison.
It's the part of the policy and regs that you're recommending regarding student use of medication, and that with a physician's signature and a parent's signature, a student can self-medicate, be allowed to carry the medicine, and it just says medicine, in the bottle, identified in the building, and to take it when they need it. And my questions are, number one, we now, as Mr. Beckles said earlier, we have people, we're trying hard to get medical professionals in the building, and the way that they handle it now is that parents deliver the medicine to the nurse's, principal or nurse's office. The students are required to come in. The nurse keeps a daily record of when it's taken. The medicine is locked up. It's not, no one else can access it or take it or use it. And that's for non-prescription and prescription medicine. I have a concern about a physician being willing to sign off on a medicine that a student is self-administering. I don't know about how they feel about the liability. I wondered about the liability for the school board and for school personnel. I also wondered about who would monitor when the students are taking this medication. And it just says students. It doesn't say high school students or secondary students. So we're talking K to 12. And is that a responsibility that's now going to fall on teachers to remind students to take the medicine when they're supposed to take it? Yes.
Okay, so the way that I'm reading the first page of the policy dealing with self-care and self-administration of students who are diagnosed with diabetes, that's what that applies to.
All right,
that if the child is diabetic and has gotten the written permission from the physician and the written permission from the parent, then the diabetic child is in a much better position to do their self-medication. I do not see that that applies to all students that have medications that were.
What?
If we added self-care and self-administration of diabetic or diabetes medication, would
yes. Yes.
Just add that to the title with that?
Because the confusion is students may be permitted to carry and administer medications when the following conditions are met. And it said, I did not see it as falling, it says students. And to me, that's an opportunity for someone who should not be carrying and using medication, or a parent could get a permission. I was very concerned about that one. I understand about carrying EpiPens and inhalers for asthma.
All I can say is we'll go back and take another look at it. We're going off of VSBA's recommendation of the way the policy should be presented. Ms. Bongentry has conferred with the head nurses at the Department of Education, and she has been involved in the detailed drafting of the policy as it's currently presented.
And how about the nurses in the buildings and the teachers in the building? Have we presented this to them for their feedback on this?
We have not.
Ms. Carter?
We were talking about the children with diabetes, and we're talking about carry with them and use supplies, so we're talking about the needles, if that's the case. And what's happening now? Do you go to the clinic to administer or medications?
I'd just like to stop at this point, and we'll pull it back and gather more information and bring it back to you at a later date.
Okay. Dr. Coleman?
I would support school board members Morrison's statement if in fact it will include what you said, Mr. Chair. As a parent of a 7th grader who's a type 1 diabetic, I certainly hear what Dr. Copeland just said and recognize the need for her to do that on her own.
Okay, so it'll come back to us maybe in a couple of weeks?
Certainly.
Okay. All right. Move to new business, agenda item H. I gotta get there. So this is Dr. Edwards. This is for action this evening.
Yes, this is to give my new secretary, who I'm happy, welcome aboard, Ms. Spinner, permission to sign in my absence and obtain necessary signatures for Virginia DOE.
So this is Department of Education correspondence, and it would be signed by the board clerk in the absence of the superintendent. This is for action this evening. Any further discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. We next move to agenda item H2, EC Glass High School Auditorium Stage Main Curtain. Dr. Copeland?
Yes. Probably 6 weeks ago, we discovered that the top edge of the main EC glass curtain was starting to dry rot. We did everything we could to try to hold it together and make it last a few more months. It's not cooperating, so we are at a point to where we need to get it completely replaced. We're going to ride off of a Hanover County existing contract to use Lux Out stage curtains, which does all of our stage curtains here in the city for all this, at least the school stage curtains. So I would ask that if you feel so inclined to please approve it tonight so that we can get this process moving along. The money is there. I've simply reallocated money that was in our leftover funds in capital improvement to help pay for this. So it's no new funding, it's just using leftover funding from other projects.
Okay. Ms. Morrison?
I think the last time that curtain was replaced was after the auditorium fire, because it was not replaced during the renovation. So it's been quite a while, and it's quite heavy, and it potentially could fall.
Okay. So Dr. Copeland has asked for action tonight, so is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope.
Thank you.
All right. And we move to the Paul Munro School Cafeteria Air Handler Replacement Project. Dr. Copeland.
So this actually falls underneath what I'd normally term as an emergency repair. This air handler sits to the right side of the stage as you look at the stage in the cafeteria at Paul Munro. The great news about this piece of equipment is it does date from the building being built, so we have gotten our money's worth out of it. It has now completely kicked the bucket. We have money in our emergency maintenance fund in the capital improvement plan to pay for this, so I'm recommending to you that we move $100,000 to fund the replacement of this piece of equipment. The piece of equipment itself runs $77,583. We've had to put a temporary chiller in place, so we incur some installation and rental charges with that. And then with all of these things, there's always electrical and duct rework that needs to be done. So we're hoping to get this in under $100,000. I also ask that if you feel so inclined that you do approve that one tonight, because I am incurring charges right now on a temporary chiller anyway. Whether I get the money or not, we're paying for it.
Questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No.
Thank you.
It brings us to superintendent's comments. Dr. Edwards.
Well, thank you. I am excited to be here. Great welcome. I had a snowstorm when we came back from vacation, a tornado, just nothing but small things to get me up and running real quickly. But the fortunate part about all of that is it allowed me to see what a wonderful, wonderful community we have here. And I think the two students called it out when they talked about community support and leadership, and it was interesting that he said that the students are looking at me as a role model, and I'm looking at them like what role models they are for the rest of us. So I am really thankful to everyone who rallied and supported all of our families, our students, our staff, and even, you know, I gave the charge to two of my principals back there to please help out when we had to close 2 schools because of the power and issues, and everyone rose to the occasion. So I'm very, very grateful and thankful to have such a supportive staff. And speaking of support, again, we are role models for our children, so if we show them love and show them that we care, and it all goes back to the presentation that 2 principals did earlier about the culture, you get that back. So I'm excited that I have all this wonderful letters from students from Paul Munro and from Desi, who sent me letters, and I'm just going to read one that says, "Welcome, Dr. Edwards. I know that you will be a great superintendent." And even superintendents need to be inspired by children, so it's nice to know that someone already believes in me. And then he followed up and said, "And I know that, and I love you already." So again, we are doing, as the students said, much more than just teaching our kids to read and write. We are really teaching them to be good citizens, to love on one another, and to be caring. So I thought these gave me great joy, so I just have to pass them around. You can kind of take a peek at some of those while I continue to speak. Tomorrow is Administrative Professionals Day, formerly known as Secretary's Day, formerly known as Whoever Helps Out Day. So I'm, you know, saying an early thank you to all of the assistants, secretaries, support staff, everybody in the division who really holds it down sometimes, provides that support for me, my office, my leaders, my directors, my principals, but we do want to celebrate and acknowledge all of the wonderful things that they do. So a quick thank you to them. Also inviting everyone. I know there are lots of people who are trying to get on my calendar, and I'm just going to offer an apology up front if you were one of those people who couldn't get on it. I did think it was really, really important within the first couple of weeks to get into the buildings and spend some quality time with my building principals. Tornado kind of altered that schedule, but I'm back on schedule. But I really did want to just get in, spend at least an hour, sometimes more. We were talking for quite some time to just learn about what's going on in their buildings, what are the things that they're most proud of, what could we provide assistance. And that will give me a better idea of how to speak to how does the community embrace what we do. It's really hard for me to tell you how to embrace what we do if I myself haven't been inside the schools to learn what that is. So my calendar will be opening up pretty soon for all of the wonderful people who have been very patient. Thank you. So I'm going to invite you to come out and join me on Thursday at Heritage High School from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock for a meet and greet and an opportunity to just put your face in my face, and we can have a quick chat, but also to get that opportunity to say, hey, now, when can we meet with you? When can I have some time with you? We will have an opportunity to do that, as well as see some of the wonderful things that our students are doing. We have a fantastic arts program, as you saw, and Mr. Coleman showcased some of that art, and we'll have some of our students there on Thursday as well to entertain and to really showcase some of the wonderful things we do. So I invite you to come and see that. I am going to the EC Glass performance. That is my Saturday night date night. My husband and I will be there to see the show, so we're looking forward to that. And just a couple other quick announcements. The 24-game challenge, which has become a yearly challenge at Lynchburg schools, was last night. This is a math challenge to encourage kids to have that quick recall for the basic facts, and it begins in 1st and 2nd grade with puzzles and goes up to 5th grade where students start using all 4 basic operations, and they compete. Last night it was at Lincoln Middle School, and we have the following winners. In first place, we have Owen Rojas from BHES. Second place, Lexi Finley from the Go Center. Third place, Leon Rojas from the Go Center. And 4th place, Tyrese Slaughter from Sheffield Elementary. And I'd just like to congratulate any kid who's coming out to participate in anything with math. That is just a wonderful accomplishment to see our kids engaged in activities that are academically based but also fun. And as a former math and science supervisor, I am certainly going to give a shout out to all of the kids and families and teachers who supported that. We also had our regional science fair. The 41st annual Central Virginia Regional Science Fair was in March at Central Virginia Community College. We had about 85 students from high schools representing the counties around us, including our Lynchburg City Schools. Chloe Singh, Ben McCarthy, who are both EC Glass students, were grand winners and will be going to Pittsburgh to represent Lynchburg City Schools and the region at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. So let me say that one more time. Our students are going to Pittsburgh to represent our schools. So I'm very pleased with all of the wonderful things that we're doing. And you know, I have this thing that says, tell our story. And I sat here and listened to the two students and I go, man, we need to get them to tell our story more and more and more, because there is just outstanding. It blew my mind, some of the things that we're doing. So very, very proud of our students doing that. We also had the History Day, which was on Saturday, and I think the students talked a little bit about that. Our students were here. We had about 16 entries from our secondary schools who competed, and some other students across the state, and 3 of our entries won in the state contest. That's always great when we win, showcasing our students' talent in history. And we won 3rd place for Dunbar Middle School in a junior group documentary, 2nd place for Lincoln Middle School in junior individual exhibits, and 2nd place for Dunbar Middle School in junior group performance. And the 2018 National History Day contest will be held on June 10th through the 14th at the University of Maryland in College Park. And again, congratulations to, once again, we have kids who could be making choices about doing something else with their time, and they choose to do these kinds of activities. So very supportive of my students, my parents who support them, grandparents and guardians, and my teachers and staff for doing that. We also had the Young Writers Regional Awards and Ceremony and Reception, which was this past Saturday at Heritage High School. And this is a contest sponsored by Piedmont Area Reading Council for K-12 students in the Piedmont region. Students competed in areas of poetry, fiction, and essay writing. And our LCS district winners competed with other students. We had 30 regional winners from LCS, 30 winners from LCS. So again, congratulations to all of my students. I need my own television show just to showcase all of the things that our kids are doing in our schools. Also, a shout out to Sandusky Middle School, because I'm understanding that this is going to be the first year in a while that they've had a drama production, and they're going to be doing You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown on Friday, May 4th and Saturday, May 5th. Both performances are at 7 o'clock, so please come out and support our kids in our drama program. They're really excited to have that happen. And I think, there was a couple other things that were on here. We are piloting a program in our school nutrition at Perrymount with the YMCA, where we are serving students supper as part of that pilot program. And there's some kids from TC Miller that also come over. So we're trying to make sure that we take care of all the kids' basic needs. And just regarding the comment earlier, going back to what Dr. Beckles talked about with stress and health and everything, and just listening to those 2 students and that young lady who was, I'm ready to get a job based on what the young lady said there. You know, it's not just our adults that are in our buildings who are feeling it, it's our students too. And they have a job, it's called school, all day long, and then some of them go to a different job, and then they have responsibilities in their families, and they have homework at night, and they're applying for colleges, and they're applying for scholarships. So this feeling that we have of stress is community-wide. It's our teachers, it's our students, it's our staff, and we have to do everything possible to kind of bring that back down. So I'm really interested in those strategies that we use in terms of self-regulation. I think one of the young ladies, if she said balance, and one of the gentlemen in the thing talked about, it helps you with your time. And that's a good lesson for kids, but it's also a good lesson for us adults too. And we need to be mindful of what we do with our time and how we treat our people. So I'm a big proponent of that, and I'm looking forward to working with both the students and the staff on ways that we can make the stress levels go down, increase the attendance, and of course bring that health insurance rate down as well. It's always a good thing. And again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has welcomed me and supported me. Every place from here, being in the schools, having wonderful children, getting on the buses and talking to the bus drivers, and even people who are seeing me in Kroger who have been nice enough to stop and tell me which is a better brand to buy, but I do appreciate all of the support, and the Kroger. I'm looking forward to many, many, many more engagements and doing so much more for our staff, students, and families. So, thanks.
Very good, thank you.
I think I got it.
Okay, board member comments? Ms. Snyder.
Welcome, Dr. Edwards. I'm very happy to hear that you've had the Kroger initiation, because that is where you will see everybody and you will get your ear talked off, and I love it. Hopefully you're never in a hurry when you're at Kroger, because you will not get out of there. So a couple things. You may be busy that same weekend as Sandusky Dunbar Middle is also doing their production. They're doing The Boyfriend. It's a kind of an unheard of musical, but there's a lot of great talent in there, and they'll be doing that the same weekend. And then I wanted to touch a little bit on what you said about our students going to Pittsburgh and repping. I will speak on the students that won in History Day, just because I will speak from personal experience, because my daughter was one of those winners. Herself and another student, Landon Roberts, will be going to Maryland to represent LCS in the national competition in June. And then one of the other students was Margaret Townsend from Lincoln Middle, and she'll be going, and those are the reps we have this year going. So they're all middle school students, and I will tell you, when you said they have their choices, these students put in hours and hours and hours of work, and sometimes parents pushing them along, sometimes not. But it was amazing to see all those kids from across the state, how much work they put into it. And I mean, we usually have the winners come here and, come in the horseshoe, and you can't really grasp what they've done until you've been to one of those competitions, but it just was mind-blowing to be there and see the work that those students did. So we should be really proud of all those kids, the 16 entries that we had, and the ones that'll move on. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Brown?
I just want to join Dr. Nellis and other board members and welcome you also. And we know that you've had a lot of challenges between the weather and other things, but per Dr. Coleman's recommendation, I also watched the challenge you had with City Council a couple of weeks ago, talking about the budget on April 10th, which was your 7th day at work, and going there to the principal's office, as they described. I thought you did a great job, and I thought your team did a great job of representing the schools, and I thought the City Council seemed to be pretty supportive, and clearly, if we don't get level funding, it's not because of the presentation and the work that you all have done, so thanks so much for doing that. The LCS system allowed Mrs. Carter and I to go to the annual National School Board Association meeting a couple weeks ago, which I had never been to before. Unfortunately, Sharon had, so she was my mentor and told me how this thing worked, because I was overwhelmed with the people and the size of the place, and I couldn't find my hotel the first night, so I mean, it was really, I was scrambling, but she took me under her wing. It was great. And it was also great to see the number of people who were so supportive of public schools and this great initiative. Sharon was nice to share some of her presentations with us. The one I will comment on was they had one school board talked about the orientation process for new members, which was very interesting, and that they actually start the orientation before the person is elected or appointed, so that the people know before they get into it what the responsibilities are, what they need to do. And which I thought was really a good idea. And
people may not follow. I know.
Right. That's right. But then they also spend the summer literally interviewing through the different departments and really taking the time to meet with people in different departments, and which sounds like a really good process. I'd love to maybe look at that at some point, however we can do that, to discuss it as a board, to decide should we revise our new orientation. And then lastly, as you all know who have been there, they have these general sessions. And the first day, I was very impressed that they were talking about equity, amongst this crowd of 7,000 people. And as you walked into the area, they had this statement, which I like to read, because I thought it was so striking that this is what you walk into when you start this program for 3 days, which is the NSBA statement, which is that we affirm in all actions that each student can, will, and shall learn. Educational equity is the intentional allocation of resources, instruction, and opportunities according to need. We recognize that based on factors including but not limited to disability, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, students are deprived of equitable educational opportunities. This requires discriminatory practices, prejudice, and beliefs be identified and eradicated. Yes, sir. And I want to recognize the work that Ethel Reeves and Dr. Womack do helping us with that, but I thought that was pretty striking. And it really was a great conference, and thanks so much. And then in closing, I just want to say that we did get an addendum to our personnel the last day or so, which people may not have noticed, but on there is the fact that Mr. Michael Rudder is retiring after 41 years. He kind of slipped that under the rug for us. So I do want to make a comment that, Mike, thank you very much for everything you've done, and we're going to miss you.
Ms. Morrison?
Well, Mr. Rudder, on March 9th, I attended a meeting of Lynchburg City Schools retired teachers, and it was my first meeting, and they all look really good. They look relaxed, they are happy. Oh, I should have been going to that meeting for a while, but at this meeting, Mark Sheehan, who is the director of the Boys and Girls Club, did a presentation, and they're fighting poverty one child at a time together. And I'm bringing this up because he spoke so highly of the support from DESE with their program, that Mr. Rule and the teachers have gone over there with their laptops. They've trained the volunteers, they've trained the workers how to teach reading and use the same language. And what blew me away was that the students that they work with in that after-school program, because of the support from the school, 92% of those students were making B's or better. That's significant. Yes. And he said the teachers, because of the teacher support beyond their school day, they were able to make this program work. And I just think that's a great thing for our teachers and administrators to do, and to get that kind of success. Maybe we could look at ways we could expand that into other programs around this city for our students.
Dr. Sena?
Well, I would like to welcome you as well, Dr. Edwards. We're really glad to have you here. Way back in October, I was approached by an EC Glass senior in an AP research class asking if I would be an expert mentor for his research project. And I happily agreed. He did a in-depth study of cell phone addiction, had some interesting results. But it was really fantastic. I'm just amazed at what students have access to in our schools in terms of different learning experiences, and how well this student and his classmates are prepared to continue education. Because it was like doing, I sort of got PTSD because it kind of reminded me of my thesis and dissertation defenses, but they go through the whole thing. They have the research proposal, they have to go through a review board and have approval. They have to figure out data collection and report their results. And then, of course, they have to defend it then against a committee who will ask them questions. And it was a really wonderful thing to be a part of. And I'm just really impressed that students have this experience that they can do. So I hope to be able to do it again. And again, kudos to the high schools for having these opportunities for our students.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carter?
Dr. Edwards, I too want to welcome you and wish you the best, and I know you'll do well. And just wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Brennan stated about the conference. And I went to, talked about one workshop, but two others I would just like to share is they talked about the importance of schools having school culture. And I know from like a lot of the students that went to Dunbar how they are so invested, even though now they're in their 70s or late 70s. But just the importance of school culture to really start that out each morning. I know a lot of the Lynchburg City schools are really getting into that and trying to do that and develop that for their schools, and it looks different at each school. But whatever it does, it works. And the other one was the educational ombudsman. It's a way that a lot of the school systems or districts help resolve issues before they just escalate to a degree that there's no return. And we really need to start looking at that or just explore that idea.
Wow.
Dr. Edwards, I have eagerly anticipated your arrival, and I'm delighted that you're here. Clearly, you've been baptized by fire with the snowstorm and your presentation to City Council, which you nailed, and followed by the tornado. And I think of all the things that I wanted to say to you, I have been overshadowed by reading the comments on the card. So I just picked some of those out that I just want to share that I think that are applicable. The first one was that you look great. You have a good voice. We hope you'll stay here forever. We love you already. You will be great, and I believe in you. Welcome.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Coleman.
Wow, taken by that, that's powerful. I first would like to begin by saying that I would like for us to find ways to make the takeaways from those who go to NSBA and other places to become a part of the fabric of what we do. So I'm interested in making sure that prep for potential and new members to our school board would be done, as well as school culture and educational ombudsman. Thank you for that. I was looking forward to your presentations, and you all have met my levels of interest. I would like to indicate that I gave you a white folder, and in it are some things that I'd like you to review, so I will not take the time to read them because you'll do that. But I do want to acknowledge in our citywide unity and community event held at EC Glass that Bedford Hills Elementary School, Paramount Elementary School, R.S. Payne Elementary School, T.C. Miller Elementary School for Innovation, Sandusky Middle School, and EC Glass High School prepared some marvelous artwork and poems that mesmerized the attendees that night, and we're very grateful for that, and Dr. Edwards' presence and others who shared in that significant community building event to support our schools and to reduce poverty in our community. Also, I've supplied for you a copy of Dr. King's speech that was delivered in 1962 at EC Glass High School, if you were not able to secure that night, as well as the picture of the young man who was there that night, who actually was the first person to shake Dr. King's hand. And it was powerful to hear him mention Lynchburg and Glass and all of that in that tape. Secondly, I had the privilege recently of speaking at the 2018 Clean Fuel Vehicle Expo and Virginia Clean Cities Rally in Richmond, and I've shared with you some materials relative to that. But Dr. Copeland and to Mr. Stone, I believe, some of those things are very interesting about how do we look at the debate of fossil fuel versus green fuel, and the whole notion of new electric school buses that are right out in neighboring counties, at least for people to look at. How do we take alternative fuel, advanced technology, improving our air and economic security, and how our school division may address those issues. And so you can look at that. Then I'm also very grateful on last night for the Southern Region Networking Forum, and how of all of the forums throughout the Commonwealth, the Secretary of Education graced us with his presence, along with his deputy, and several others were there. There's some interesting takeaways from that. And I think our elementary school principals alluded to some of the things that are there. Please look at that and begin to think about how, I'm sure under Dr. Edwards' leadership, we'll address those things in our own way. And I am grateful for Dr. Edwards' presence, our school board members Charlita Mason and Susan Morrison, for your presence on last evening. And there is a school law conference coming up on June the 1st, and the conference on Ed, July the 16th and the 17th. And so please govern yourselves accordingly. I have been involved with a Dunbar backpack program that is going on over there, and it's really remarkable to see how people are coming together to help our vulnerable kids in that way. And I would like to just say, echoing what has already been said, Dr. Edwards, thank you for the way that you are doing what you do, and you have our support. And to our new clerk, knowing your family from some years ago, thank you for what you're doing. You have some big shoes to fill, but it looks like that you're doing a fine job, and we thank you for that. And Mr. Rudder, Dr. Brennan mentioned you, but all I'm going to ask is that if, when you decide to do this, if you in fact decide to, that we will sing a solo before you depart, since you have not given me that chance up to now, and I understand why. And some of those ties and shirts that you get tired of, I'd be glad to take them and wear.
Mr. Fowley?
Yeah, and as everyone else, I would like to definitely welcome Dr. Edwards here. We're anticipating your arrival. Out of everything that I have to say, I have to deliver a message from my daughter, who's a student at Dunbar. She said, you know, Dad, out of all the things, I can't believe her hair is just like mine. You know what I'm saying? She was really thrilled that she had representation, someone that mirrored her hairstyle. So I wanted to deliver that message from my daughter. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to visit Hutchinson Elementary School. Hutchinson, the Early Learning Center. And I was blown away by some of the awesome things that they have going on over there with the principals and the directors and the teachers. I had registered my kids there, but I hadn't taken the time to tour the whole entire facility. Did not realize how big it was. Did not realize how many students went there. So I know my board members visit schools all the time, but I encourage you, if you haven't recently, please go over there and check them out. I was, because there's a lot of conversation about preschool education, early education, and I felt bad that I hadn't been there since I got on the school board. There was some things that I didn't notice as far as support-wise. You know, there was one principal there, but there weren't any assistant principals. There weren't any counselors there. And only one African-American teacher. I know that there were some African-American instructional assistants, but I thought it was interesting that the makeup of the school to only have one African-American teacher there. So those are some things that I just looked at that we could take a look at as a board to see where we can help with some support. But they're doing an awesome job, but I think everyone should take a look into some of the great things going over there. Mentioning earlier, they talked about the career fair, which I think is a great idea. I had no idea what I wanted to do as a child, but I knew I didn't want to work for anyone. So can I say that maybe we can add on something for the entrepreneur, something to encourage people, the child who's not seeing a career that they want to follow, but knowing that they want to do something and it's going to be great, but they just don't know what it is. Because I think there are some kids, when I go and visit the school, when they ask about the basketball team or different entrepreneurial things that I've done, framing that concept for them of what an entrepreneur is not all cookies and cream. It's not all pretty, you know, just to have that conversation. I think we can encourage some kids about some different things. So maybe that's an option we can look into. Congratulating C.J. Rosser, the Heritage Basketball Player of the Year. That is not something that we should just not acknowledge. He did a great job working on the court and off the court, and he's a great part of the community. So I just wanted to bring a little bit more acknowledgments to that. Sunday, I attended a revelers group. It was an event at the Academy Center based on the state of the African Americans in Lynchburg. And one of the topics that they covered, well, it was about how did we get here. And they covered education. And they had Dr. Caldwell, who was the first African-American student to be integrated in EC Glass. They had Mary Payne, and they had a panel of people talking about Dunbar High School and their memories of Dunbar High School. And I couldn't help but notice that there was some emotions and some feelings, and I think some areas where we need to kind of revisit Dunbar High School for some of the people who graduated from there, just to learn about the history of what all happened, how they merged. It's very dynamic stories, but there are some people that need to heal. I was very impressed by Dr. Caldwell and his presentation, but there are some things that they would like to share with their experiences from Dunbar that they feel like might not be remembered. So I just thought Lynchburg City Schools would want to be a part of that somehow. Let's see, there was one other thing, but I don't know what it is, so I'll end there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So our next scheduled board meeting is May 1st, which is a week from now. And I guess would like the board to consider moving that to May 8th. That will give us time. Administration will actually have some time to actually work within the schools instead of getting ready for another board meeting, as well as possibly, you know, if we need to have additional a work session further in May, budget-wise, you know, we'll you know, schedule that as needed. But if that's acceptable, it'd be would like to get a motion to move the May 1st board meeting to May 8th. Okay. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. So our next board meeting will be May 8th here in the boardroom starting at 5:30. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you. Congratulations to Ms. Spinner. You got through your first board meeting.